Hello, loved ones. This is Matt Stevens, and I hope you're doing fantastic. I know I am. And I've got a topic I want to talk about, and it's one of those things where if if you haven't thought of this already, or if this hasn't been posed to you at some point, or whatever, and it's never blown your mind, or even worse, if it hasn't made you a little squeamish, or even meaning very uncomfortable, then you may not be ready for it. I mean, and I don't mean that in a demeaning way. It's just that, well, I don't know how else to say it. I mean, I really don't. But I have a concept or a theory, I suppose. But and it's one of those things that it does get a little bit when we first come to this realization, when we first have this thought, we think, man, that is unsettling. It is until you just kind of let it go. But anyway, I'll get to that. Yes, yes, squeamish. There we go. Anyway, loved ones, I'm trying to remember. Please like and subscribe and all that good stuff. I would really appreciate it. And yeah, grow the channel and have fun with stuff. I'm trying to organize my notes. I didn't realize I had stuff sitting on there. There we go. Okay, so in the beginning, which if we really realize that there is an ever present now, then it's still the beginning. There is just that one moment, that one thought. And all that means, and that's a very simple concept, I guess. It's something that most people accept anyway, is that time really is only something that we use in this finite lifetime. And outside of this, where we are immortal, time has no meaning, right? There is only one moment. There is only the I am moment, the now. So, but for the purposes of this, because we are in a 3D physicality, I may talk a little bit about in a linear way. So please understand that I understand that, and please don't call me out on it. So there you go. So in the beginning, there was the I am moment, and that is when consciousness or God or the creator or whatever. But that's when mind became self aware. That's when mind had the aha moment and was like, I exist. And therefore, I am. And now here we are. So, when consciousness had that aha moment, it began creating. And remember, I am speaking linearly, but I don't know how else to do it. So just bear with me. But again, began creating. And we can say that it created other beings. It created the universe, it created this and that and everything else. And then began splintering itself off into other beings, other personalities, other aspects, in an attempt to, and I guess I shouldn't say in an attempt, but as a means of exploring, as a means of discovery, as a means of learning, gaining experience. So here we are, right? Well, staying on a kind of a linear path, when the consciousness, the I am, had that moment and it began creating. The thing that it did though, because we are divine sparks of the creator, we have all the creative power of the creator because we are the creator. It's just I am and you are, and Joe over there is, or whatever. So we all have that. We also have those moments where we realize that. And we begin creating ourselves. Now, we're not creating entire universes, no, but we are, I believe, building up to that. Kind of the baby steps concept, right? Well, when so it's kind of a pecking order is what I'm getting at with that. There is the big I am, the big cheese, as Tom Campbell calls it, the big cheese. That's God. There is the pecking order, and then let's say that the first round of creation were what we would refer to as the angels or the angelic realm, and then they began creating in their own capacity. And then, it kind of steps down from there. So there's the source, there's the original, God, I am, where there is no time, no space, no distance. It just is all right here. And then in that divine matrix, it had all the we'll say the angelic realm was the next level down, just for illustrative purposes. So then they began creating. And then what they created began creating and began creating. You see what I'm saying? Like the dream within a dream within a dream forever. So there are multiple, maybe infinite levels of creation. And it is all for the purpose of experience. It's all for the purpose of exploration, for discovery. So that the big cheese, the I am, can discover everything that there is to discover about itself. And experientially. In other words, having the experience. Not just imagining the experience, but then again, I'm getting to that. So all this is going on inside the mind of the I am. And that is what we call imagination. Yes, it is simply imagining, being creative. And by imagining and bringing us to life, bringing all of this to life, and then giving us the power and live, well, not necessarily just giving us the power, but by living through us, we, by, I guess, inheritance, have that same power. And we begin creating. And then what we create, assuming we create sentient beings in our imagination, but we're at the lower level, we're not quite there yet. But so the level, it goes down in levels. So so that's what I mean when I say there are levels or layers upon layers upon layers upon layers of realities, of creations, of worlds, universes, whatever. Now, I know that I talk a lot about simulation theory, and some people don't like that. I guess it kind of cheapens, or it could cheapen the experience. I mean, assuming it were a computer or some kind of technological simulation. Okay, I'm with you. I get that. I don't agree with it, but I get it. But so if the big cheese had its moment and began creating, and then those guys graduated up and were able to create in the same way, then inside their minds would be entire universes or worlds or whatever creations. And let's say in those, in let's say 2 layers deep, 3 layers deep, whatever. They inside of it, they are at the level of physicality, which is where we are now, which is fairly low down the chain, pretty low vibrational. So, but they invented computers. They invented technology, much like we have. And then they learn how to run simulations. They're living their lives, right? They invent simulations. They, in an attempt to, let's say, I'm speculating, but in an attempt to learn things faster, they think, well, what if I could plug myself into this simulation, and in the course of 8 hours, I could live an 80, just by time dilation, I could live an 80 to 100 year lifetime in an 8-hour stretch. how much knowledge could I gain? Right? I mean, that would be very good. That would be smart. It's like, well, so you're trying to tell me that I can basically go to work for an 8-hour day, and while I'm there, live an 80-year lifetime and gain all that knowledge and all that experience? Sign me up, because that's really growing at a crazy rate. So that's not unheard of that someone would do that if they had the ability to do it. All right. So now we've got the I am, the big cheese. He's got levels under him or her or it. Sorry, ladies. There's levels under it. And then at some point that we've got there where they have now inserted themselves into simulations. And then maybe they're like, well, but we can't realize we're living in a simulation until we come back out. Or maybe we can discover it while we're in there. But we can't go into it knowing that, because then we would know, that would just make sense. You couldn't go into it knowing your true power. It's something you must discover. Because if you go into it knowing that you are a eternally powerful creator and that you are an immortal on the outside, well, I mean, then it's like, it's like the ultimate cheat code, right? So, that makes sense, I'm sure. So the original beings or selves, they then create. Some of them create in mind, just like the I am. Some of them, maybe they do create, but then their creations become technologically advanced, and then they create simulations technologically and plug themselves in, plug their consciousness in, which is basically their soul, their essence of themselves. And inside that, they begin to be creative. But they don't create. They begin to be creative in their own mind. So there could be layers upon layers, and it could be technological. It could be mind, technological, mind, technological, whatever. The point is there are so many layers to creation. There's so many layers to simulated reality. But it's all mind. And what that means is that it's all imagination. And the scary part, the part that I told you would kind of, if you haven't had this moment and it hadn't kind of freaked you out or at least made you a little bit squeamish or a little uncomfortable yet, is that when you have that, when you realize, so what you're saying is, see, like most of us are at the point where we can accept the fact that it's like, okay, this physical body, this physical being, this is not really who I am. I do have a higher self. I feel like I got something crawling on me. Anyway, so I do have a higher self outside of this. But when we realize, but all this just exists inside the mind of the original I am. That you're telling me that we really don't exist anywhere. That's exactly what I'm telling you. Because there is no where. There is no somewhere. It's all right here. It's all in the mind. The original mind. And see, those people who are like, say, atheists or people who believe in strictly materialism, I'm like, well, what? I guess that's just where we just fundamentally part ways. Because I can't imagine, well, I know that none of this could exist unless it was conceived in a mind. But I guess that is proof that I believe that consciousness is fundamental. That I believe that mind doesn't create consciousness, or mind, whatever. Consciousness was first, and it became creative. And in that, in creative or imaginative or whatever you want to call it, but in its imagination, it began creating all of this. And here we are. But there's many, many layers to that. And we're kind of in a creator boot camp, I guess. And I believe that we are here learning to be creators. It's like, well, yeah, you got to be able to create a life, this one life, make it something fantastic, mold it, manifest it, whatever you want to, whatever word you want to use, make it into something amazing, make it into what you want it to be. Then probably graduate up, but whatever. We'll get into that in the next life, right? Anyway, loved ones, it just the mind blower, or the part that would make you just uncomfortable, is if you really have that realization that none of this really is anywhere. It's all right here, right there. It's all inside the mind of the creator, of the all. All is mind. Mind, mentalism, that's all there is. All of these things, they're just things that were imagined. Everything is something that was imagined. But once you get past that part where it freaks you out, that's when it gets cool. That's when you think, so if all this is just imaginative, got that thing again, then I can imagine, yes, absolutely. You can imagine your dream life. But you've got to truly believe it. It's not sitting around daydreaming of your dream life. That's cool, but that's not going to make it happen. Because there's rules set in place, natural law that our Creator set in place. And by living in a physical world, we do have to do physical things. And we have to abide by natural law. I mean, you can't, it's not a choice, so you're going to. But that's what it all amounts to. But higher up, the further up we go, the more we realize this is all just mind. And that means it's all just imagination. And that can freak you out a little bit. You're like, well, so what you're saying is I don't really exist? I'm not saying you don't exist. You exist. But physicality? No. It's just what our consciousness is plugged into right now and observing or perceiving, I suppose, or whatever. So anyway, loved ones, either you're with me or you're not. I know some people might be like, okay, Matt, whatever, dude, that was kind of dumb. Thanks for wasting where am I at? 18 minutes. Thanks for wasting about 20 minutes of my time, dude. Well, I got to believe that if you're still with me now, it's because you do understand it, or at least you want to. And give it some thought. I believe that in this world, in this realm that we live in, there is what's the word I'm looking for? There is an awakening going on. Now, I realize that there's a lot of people who are going the other way. But as the pendulum swings, if people are waking up to this level, then there has to be people who are not, who are going to sleep on that same level. The pendulum swings. So when we look at people who are really not with it spiritually, who are so immersed in materialism and all that, that's good. I mean, it's not good for them, but we're all on the path we're on. But that's good because that tells you that we're able to go that far to the non-material. We're able to go that far into mind, that far into imagination, and create amazing lives and get good at this. And then when we do leave here, when we do detach from our body, our avatar, we can maybe graduate up. But anyway, that's speculating. Anyway, loved ones, that's what I got. I love you. Please like and subscribe, and I'll be back directly.